In this lesson, we are going to talk about inheritance. Inheritance is a basic object-oriented programming concept. Inheritance allows a class to be defined as having a certain set of characteristics, and then other classes can be derived from that class. The derived class inherits all of the characteristics of its parent class, and then usually adds some features of its own. So it's kind of like how you inherit certain features from your parents. But in the case of programming, you have a single parent and you inherit all their features. With inheritance, we create what is known as a class hierarchy. In a class hierarchy, the class at the top of the hierarchy is known as the base class. And any classes that are derived from the base class are known as subclasses. You can also create subclasses from subclasses. Each subclass has a parent class, which is the one it is derived from, or inherits from. In Swift, a class can only have a single parent. Inheritance is also one of the big differences between classes and structures. Only classes can inherit from a parent class, structures cannot. Subclasses call and access the properties and methods of their superclass, and if they need to, they can also change those properties and methods in their own subclass. So let's check out how this works. Let's go ahead and open up a new playground. It's going to be a blank playground, say next, and then we are going to put this on the desktop. I'm going to call this inheritance, and we're going to say create. And I'm going to get rid of this variable here. And to get started, we are going to need to create a class. And since this is the class our other classes are going to be derived from, it will be called the base class and should probably be a little generic. So let's pretend we are making a video game where we have a set of heroes. For our base class, we want to put properties that would be used by most, if not all, the subclasses we intend to derive from it, all right? So I'm going to say class. We should be pretty proficient at creating classes now. And we're going to say class hero. And let's go ahead and give it a couple of properties. So I'm thinking something that would be used by most of these subclasses would be a name and an age. So I'm going to say var hero name. It's going to be of type string. And then var hero age. And that's going to be an integer. Okay. And then we need our initializers, right? So we say init. And we're going to pass in a name and a string, and then an age and an int, okay? And then we're going to set those. We're going to say hero name is equal to name, and hero age is equal to age. All right, so now we have our first class. This is going to be our base class. Now we can create some subclasses of the hero class that inherit from our hero class. So they're going to inherit the properties hero name and hero age. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a warrior class. I'm going to say class warrior, and to inherit from another class, what we do is we do a semicolon, and then we put the class that we want to inherit from. So I'm going to say hero right here, okay? So this denotes that the warrior class should inherit from the hero class, and it's going to inherit all of its properties and methods. So now for this warrior subclass, we can go and add additional things that are specific to our warrior class. So we can say something like var attack skill is equal to, and we'll give it some default values, 50. Var defense skill is equal to 15. And then let's give it a function. Let's give it a method. Let's say func attack. And when we attack, we'll, increase the attack skill by 5. So I'm going to say attack skill plus equal 5. Okay. So now comes the slightly tricky part. When we are inheriting from another class, we need to take into account not only the initializer for the warrior class, but also the initializer for the parent class. Okay, so it's going to look something like this. We're going to say init, and then we're going to pass in the values, and we're going to pass in values for attack skill and defense skill, but we also need to take into account the arguments that are required for the parent class, hero name and hero age. So our initializer is going to look something like this. Let's do the parent class arguments first, or parameters, I should say. Name of type string, age, of type int, attack skill of type int, and defense skill of type int. Okay, and again, the name and the age is so that we can supply the values needed for our parent class to initialize, and then the attack skill and defense skill is so that we can supply the values for our subclasses properties. So to initialize the properties of our parent class, we need to call the parents initializer, and this is done by calling super. Okay, so super refers to the parent. And you can see here that super has the type of hero, which is the class of our parent class. All right, so I'm going to say super, and then we call .init, and you'll see here that we have the two parameters and arguments that we need for our parent class's initializer, name and age. So I'm going to pass in name and age, and then we can set the values for the subclasses properties. So we can say self.attack skill is equal to attack skill. Self.defense skill is equal to defense skill. All right, so let's go ahead and initialize a warrior instance here. So let's say let warrior equal, and it's going to be a warrior class. And when we go to initialize, we need to pass in a name, age, attack skill, and defense skill. Okay, so for name, I'm going to say Phoenix, age, let's say 25, attack skill 100, and defense skill 25. All right, and now we can say warrior.attack, and we have methods. We can say warrior.name, hero name, and this is, you can see, a property that we inherited from our parent class, hero age as well. All right, so that's pretty cool. Now let's go ahead and make a subclass of our warrior class. So we can have as many classes as we want, but each individual class can only have one single parent. All right, so a subclass of warrior is like the grandchild of hero. Okay, so we are going to say class, and let's call this warrior monk. And let's go ahead and give it a property called, how about weapons knowledge? And we'll set a default value for that for 200. And then let's initialize. So we're going to say init, and we're going to need now all of the initializers for the warrior class and the hero class, all right? But we only need to call the super.init for the warrior, which will include all of the values for both the warrior and the parent class of warrior as well. So I'm going to just copy this right here, actually, just to save some time, and then tack onto the end the one that is specific to this subclass, which is weapons knowledge. So I'm going to say weapons, I'm just going to say IQ, and we'll set that equal to an int, or the type is an int. All right, then here in statements, we need to call our parent classes initializer. So I'm going to say super.init, and we are having a problem here because I forgot to set the inheritance. So warrior monk is going to inherit from warrior. Okay, so now here we can call super.init, and we pass in all of those. So name, age, attack skill, and weapons. Oh, let's see here. Okay, yeah, so defense skill. Sorry, defense skill. And then we set the weapons knowledge here. So weapons knowledge is equal to weapons IQ. All right, so it's kind of a cascading effect. Warrior monk inherits from warrior. So our initializer, we need to provide everything that the warrior needs to initialize, which is name, age, attack skill, and defense skill. And then from the warrior, we use its super.init with the name and age to initialize the values of its inherited class, which is hero. All right, so that's all well and good, but what if we want to slightly modify a parent's methods so that it is more specific to the subclass, all right? So we can do that, and that is called overwriting a parent's method, all right? So we say the way to do that is we just say override, and then we put the function or method that we want to override, and we say attack. Okay, so now we are overriding the attack function, which is defined in the parent warrior class. Okay, so now instead of doing attack skill plus equal 5, let's say that this warrior monk is stronger and it can do attack skill plus equal 10. And then let's just add one more method for fun. We'll say something like summon guardian. That sounds kind of cool. All right, so now we have our warrior monk class, which is a subclass of warrior, which is a subclass of hero. And we took a look at its initializer. We have to pass in everything that is required for the parent warrior class to be initialized, which in turn passes on a couple of those values in its parent's initializer. Okay, so it's kind of this upward flowing cascading effect. And then we also took a look at how to override a parent's methods. All right, and that's pretty much it for inheritance. Pretty simple. It's just kind of like a family tree, but inverted. At the very top, we have our base class, and then from there we have subclasses that inherit from the base class, and from there you can have more and more subclasses as you go down. Just remember that classes can only inherit from one superclass at a time. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this lesson on inheritance, and this has been Johnny B, and I will see you in the next one.